And we are live. Hello, everyone. I hope you. I almost choked myself right away at the start. That would be counterproductive if the first thing I do as I start the stream, I just choke myself. So, good evening, or good day, or good morning, whatever time of day it is. I welcome you to this another stream this week. As you know, I've been extremely busy in these couple of weeks, and I wasn't been able to deliver just as much content as I was hoping. Nevertheless, I think I at least covered the main points, and I really welcome you all today. Write please in chat, how are you feeling? What are you doing? What are your worries? And we're going to discuss everything. So for those of you that are joining for the first time, I'm Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Most of you know me already. Thank you so much for that. And I actually know quite a lot of you, despite of what people are thinking about, saying, well, you have like hundreds and hundreds of comments. I actually read a lot of them, and I do remember some of the nicknames, and I do remember some of you with some of your points. But please, if you have any kind of question or comment that was towards me specifically, write in chat with an @ and write Ukraine Matters, and then the message just highlights for me. We are 1,660 people right now in chat. No, wait. Oh, sorry. That's total views. We are 667 without 1,000 concurrent viewers right now in chat, and that is really good. We have a great start today, and I'm expecting to talk to you a lot. We'll see how long this will be. I'm aiming for 2 hours, but maybe we're going to make it just a little bit shorter or longer, depending how you guys feel. All right. The music, yes. Okay, first things first, let me get you the music. Very good points, very good points. Let me get you the music. The last one is already becoming like a tradition. It just, whenever I hear the sky, it's the band name, this last song, which is Never Give Up. It was the, don't fall back, don't give up. It just pumps me up so much. Here is the link. For if you're watching this in recording, then I will have the music links in the beginning. While the music will be cut because of the YouTube copyright stuff, I will still put the links to the music inside of a video description, so you will be able to find it even if the music is not there. And then before that, we had an amazing song that I was able to find thanks to a lot of you suggesting, finding different playlists. It was the song of Bakhmut that was sang by a band that's called Spiv Bratiev. And it was really something. I really loved it, especially with the Bakhmut. Here is the link. And again, you will find everything else in the description to the video if you're watching this in the recording. All right. So did he just admit violating copyright? I mean, that's not really a big secret. When you play music on the stream, like, it's gonna tag your video. I'm not sure I follow, but sure. Do you have a playlist for the songs used? If not, any plans of doing so? Good question. Maybe I should ask. I have a how do you say? I have a playlist that I use here and there, but nothing official yet. Maybe I'll make one for. I don't really use Spotify. I just use YouTube Premium, because at some point I just thought that Spotify was just not worth it for me, and I just might as well just buy YouTube Premium and then have YouTube Music, which is actually quite okay, and together with YouTube Premium, essentially experience YouTube without ads, which is fine. Deep Rock, welcome. All right. Yes. So I think I will make a playlist maybe for the next time. Maybe I'll just add the playlist to every video of the stream, the recording, and then it's going to be easier for me. Yeah, good point. Constantine MT, hello from UK. Hello, welcome to town where second language is now Ukrainian. Wow. You don't say. What's the town is? What is the town? Hello from Norway. Hello from Denmark to you, sir. Oh my God, sir. I promised I will not use sir. I don't know why. It's like recently we had like a discussion. Someone like said sir to me, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cringy, because like in Denmark there is no, how do you say, it's like honorary titles. I think it's only like when you talk to Queen, you use not you use like a plural form of it. And I know in English doesn't make sense. It's all you. But it's like when you talk to the queen, you essentially speak like there are multiple people, whatever. I don't. So it's like, but the rest, Denmark completely dropped any kind of semantics and honorary titles. So for me, I just gotten so used to this that sir sounds really cringy for me. And then people said like, why are you reacting like this? Why are you being such an asshole? People are just trying to be nice. I was like, okay, maybe I didn't explain it. Like sometimes it's very hard to explain something by text because people don't hear what's your, like, how do you say it? Sometimes I find it difficult, and especially with my half-broken English. Jerry Arnott, thanks for the videos, Georgie. I can understand them, but the rhythm is great. The vocals are good. Now I only understood what they were saying. Lol. Jerry, to be honest, I gotta say, like when I was growing up, I didn't understand English almost at all. Half of the bands I was listening to, I had no idea what they're singing about. And I still dig the music and the rhythm. It's only now we're living in a time where like there is an auto translate function that allows you to get at least some kind of grasp, or any kind of song you can Google lyrics somewhere. For me, music is a lot of times for like the mood and the opportunity, but obviously if you understand the lyrics, that's just superb. Septic Lama, have you seen the interview with that Willie OAM did with a Bakhmut fighter, where he talked about the leadership and criticized the way everything is being run? Okay, this is actually something I'm going to answer right as I answered Eslan Lang's super chat. Hey, can we do a shout out for Ukraine TBIC? Yes, guys. Ukraine TBIC is an amazing person. Like he's I'm not sure if he's a volunteer, but I'm expecting he's a volunteer because he's a foreign fighter, really great guy. He's helping a lot of people on the front lines. I think you might know him by his comedy skit, where he did this, how to say, overview of the moisturizing creams and so on for his skin while being inside of a firefight. So absolutely stupendously amazing person. Go out, check out his channel. If someone can link his channel inside of the chat, because I have it somewhere and so on. No, wait, I'm going to link it myself. I'm not going to be an asshole, but I'm actually just going to show this. If you go to, for example, my page here, and you see here, there is like videos, live, playlists, community, memberships, and there is this channel tab. And if you press the channel tab, you will find all of the recommended channels that I've kind of found over the time that I've been streaming of the people that are supporting Ukraine. Like, for example, today I made a little bit of a community post where I explained nice analysts and like a discussion about like what's an analyst, what a military blogger is a whole other discussion. But here you can find some really good people that in one way or another are supporting Ukraine, and really nice people to maybe listen and view. And people have been multiple times mentioning military and history, and he's been there for a while. I think he's been there since he was joining Starsky's stream. And obviously Laserpig. I mean, Laserpig is a must. Like, if you don't know Laserpig, you should know Laserpig, basically. So absolutely, get Ukraine TBIC. He is right over here at the bottom, but you should definitely check out his channel. S-Slang, I think you sent the message 2 times. Maybe you should refund the second one. I answered the first one. Right, the interview with Willie OAM about the Bakhmut fighter. So there is a volunteer from the Bakhmut that essentially was criticizing the command and so on. And the important part, he was telling like the truth. I was able to see maybe like 15-20 minutes of that interview. Gotta say, I just didn't have the time to fully dedicate myself. But a lot of what he's saying is actually very much true. It's very much true, because the situation is very dire on the front lines. However, there is one very specific thing that I think a lot of like nuance that we're missing. First, he was telling that the mercenaries of Wagner are so well equipped and they're so good and so on. And then he explains the tactics and saying that they barely just sending in front lines, just like, meat like meat force from prisoners and so on, which is exactly what we've been saying all along. Yes, the core of Wagner is really well equipped. Also, the Wagner equipment does not equal the equipment that the whole Russian army has. Wagner, especially the core Wagner fighters, they have a lot of like up-to-date technology, a lot of up-to-date equipment, yes, but that does not represent the whole Russian army. Like for every Wagnerite that is equipped with a modern thermal sight, we have somewhere else on the battlefronts mobilized Ivan with a 1920s helmet on top, as well as like some newspaper stuffed inside of his shirt because he doesn't have a heated jacket. So it's different. We cannot just look at Wagner at one specific point where the main strike point of Russia is and say, well, Russian army is miles ahead. He makes the mistake that, not the mistake, it's more of a skewed perspective of a frontline fighter. This is, for example, the same that when I wrote about Taras Berezovets or Yuri Butusov, the two journalists that take preview of the front lines. They focus so much on the frontline fighting and how the troops are doing on the front lines that they don't kind of see the overall picture. And the overall picture is that Ukraine is pretty much doing great compared to Russians. Tim Fletcher, thank you for all your information and hard work. I will be in Ukraine in March 2023. I hope by that time it's going to become a lot safer, Tim. But thanks for $20. So that was the first one. Then the second thing that he said is that Ukrainian army doesn't have a lot of essentially equipment and good stuff. We need to understand one very important thing. I think I wasn't explaining it clear enough, but Ukraine has right now two armies. Two armies. It's the army that defends and the army that is going to be attacking at some point. Like if you just think about this for a couple of minutes, you'll understand the logic behind this, because the goal of Ukrainians is to liberate the whole territory of Ukraine and push Russia out. The stronger the attacking army is, the better. So think about all of the equipment, all of the vehicles, all of the tanks, all of the thermal vision, everything. The more of them are being sent to defensive positions, the less of them will be available during the attack. The attacking force needs to be a lot more capable, because attacking maneuver is multiple times more dedicated and costly for the Ukrainian army. Defending fortifications, Ukrainian essentially goal is like, think about equation. What is the minimum possible number of troops and equipment that we can dedicate to front lines right now to defend it, to achieve defensive objectives, to then what is left, the good stuff, leave it for the attacking force. So when a person says, I've been participating in a defensive campaign and I did not see a lot of good equipment, for example, that was sent by us by NATO, well, he's probably not looking at the, soon to be Bradley-based high thermal vision, highly equipped attacking and storming forces. Very different perspectives. Very, very different, especially if we're talking about as at the receiving end. And then finally, this is just kind of general thing. We've been talking about the fact that Ukrainian army is severely under-equipped. And the problem with international fighters that have used to the certain standards and levels of equipment are not used to seeing army that is, let's be clear, Ukraine was, when it entered the war, the poorest country in Europe. So despite us pouring money right now into Ukrainian army, it is still nowhere near any kind of level of, for example, Russian elite forces. So all of those three things combined will give you a pretty much clear answer on like, wow, yeah, it is, yeah. This makes sense about why Ukrainian forces that are on defensive do not have all the cutting edge technology devices, because that's not the point. Hope that explains. Again, I started talking. I missed a lot of questions. Annalena Baerbock said, "We are fighting a war against Russia 3 days ago. What do you think about this?" I'm not sure if she misspoke or not, but Annalena Baerbock is part of the Green Party of Germany. Green Party of Germany has always stood up to essentially values before money, before profits. So, I mean, if it's a good position to have as a mental state, which we should have because we are literally fighting a war against Russia. Okay, let's put it this way. Ukraine is fighting for democracy. We as democracies need to help Ukraine fight. Russia is fighting for autocracies, and in this clash, we're having a fight between the democracies and autocracies. What kind of world we're going to be living in? So if we're talking on a big philosophical level, then we can say, yes, it's a clash between the autocracies and democracies. Therefore, we being democracies, it is our fight as well. I think it was meant this way. I don't really think that we should look into much that expect that Germany is going to start sending troops into Ukraine. That's not going to happen. I saw also Perun's video today, but I haven't completed watching it. I think I watched only like 5 minutes of it, unfortunately. But it's on my playlist to watch. Septic Llama listening to me. Thank you. Will Bakhmut hold? Not necessarily. I actually consider that probably not. Captain Hello, Slava Ukraini, where are the Danish F-16 going to UA? Probably after next Rammstein. Glory to Ukraine. Guys, quick pause. Let us please give a little bit of a cheer to Ali. Ali has gotten to hospital, unfortunately, with some of the complications with her health. So please give a shout out to Ali and let's wish her a fast and rapid recovery. That would be for everyone's interest here. Thank you, Ali, for what you do. Thank you for the dedication. I really appreciate it. I really do. Shirley, I don't agree him saying Ukraine is broadly losing war and they don't know how to counterattack. Yeah, I mean, it's factually wrong. Ukraine counterattacked and retook 2 territories. So, I mean, let's put it this way. Being on the receiving edge of the main attack of your enemy, at that moment, you think that the world is tearing apart. You're asking, where is our artillery? Where is our, support guys? Where is our everything? Everything is shit, right? This is the narrow perspective of a fighter. That's why it's kind of very important to filter that. Very, very important to filter it. Yeah, I still haven't seen Perron's video. Yeah, unfortunately. Yes. Have you seen new Czech president? Yes, I've seen him. I congratulated already my Czech friends with finally a decent president. It was kind of a running joke for us. That's why they're short-lived foreign volunteers. Exactly. Because foreign volunteers, the history with the foreign volunteers was like that. So they arrived to Ukraine to help Ukraine fight. And then Ukraine says, well, we can give you some rifles, maybe, like some radios, but that's about it. And a lot of them were like, well, where's the support? Where is the command? Where is our on-demand artillery? Where is our air control? Where is our everything? You know, they were expecting a certain level of competency within Ukrainian force. But Ukrainian forces are literally fighting World War I, World War II, almost like plus some drones, kind of like trench-style warfare. It's literally almost hand-to-hand fighting, minus the artillery. So, and they were like, yeah, where's our high technology stuff? It's a very nasty place to be. Yes. What about UA? I don't comment on how much troops UA is holding for reserves. I usually don't comment at all on the Ukrainian troops, quantities, whatnot. I can, but I won't. JC the Music Man, do you think message "Don't provoke Russia" is a cop-out? If the war was unprovoked, then we should allow the West to fight if they want to. Okay, let me understand this. So do you think them? Okay, I'm going to answer the first part. Do you think the message "Don't provoke Russia" is a cop-out? Yes, because it doesn't make any sense because Russia is the aggressor, right? So, I mean, you don't provoke the aggressor. That's If the war was unprovoked, then we should allow the West in to fight if they want to. Yes, but West is pushing out of the Third World War. So we need to be aware that our politicians are just like, they just don't want to lose any kind of public opinion to fight for what is right if Ukrainians are paying for this anyway. So why a lot of politicians are looking at this saying like, well, they're fighting anyway, so why should we? Healthcare. With the discussion coming up for supporting Ukraine, will fighter jets, how many pilots does Ukraine have? Good question. Maggie Gouch. Hello, Georgie. Hello. Did Ukraine get GLSDBs? No, it's still on the table, unfortunately. It is still not very clear why Joe Biden exactly is withholding long-range artillery, but the rhetoric has been strengthening, especially after the tank deliveries been announced, because everyone just saw what I've been telling for months and months, is that Putin has nothing to answer. Everyone is afraid of escalation, but Putin has no answer. So just provide everything to Ukraine. The tanks should have been provided to Ukraine about 10 months ago. Do you think the West is finally serious about equipping Ukraine with what it needs? Yeah, somewhat. I'm gonna be skeptical until I see everything delivered. Right now, my biggest question is when, right? The tanks, when? Bradleys, when? Everything, when? We're hearing some of them deliveries, but not everything, right? And the hesitancy is just killing me, but that's just how democracies work. So I'm trying to be optimistic to it, but until I get a confirmed schedule for some deliveries, until I get agreed that people saying is like, okay, this is the first batch of tanks that we're delivering, the second batch, we're starting to work on it. That is when I'm going to say, okay, now West is serious. Because as you said, it might be just like, yeah, we're delivering. There you go. Steve Wall, should we make some public announcements of what capabilities and equipment democracies are sending to Ukraine? Let it be a surprise to the Wagner shits. That's already happening. Stephen Walsh, that's already happening. Usually it's just the announcements are usually only on new capabilities. The older capabilities are either like just send us like military vehicles sent to Ukraine, and that can be like everything, or like long range or like artillery vehicles, and it can be like 155, 105, who knows. So it's they're already doing it. It's usually about, how to say, the public shift, the public opinion to proclaim what new capabilities Ukraine is giving. That's just because the Western societies, we are fighting within ourselves to provide stuff to Ukraine. Ukraine already asked for everything. Ukraine asked for tanks, I think, in March last year. So like Ukraine asked for all of the capabilities that it needs, but it's unclear now. Hi, Georgie. Any ideas, Heinrich Barty? I hope I'm butchering it. Hi, Georgie. Any idea when you can do a Jaga Jaga fundraiser? Would love to help Mr. Madiar make some bada boom. Yes, I'm looking to connect to it. He had a little bit of a fundraiser themselves, so I donated some money on that, but I'm looking to make a fundraiser soon. So I'm looking into it. Kellen Dunn, Biden is a bit disappointment and a pussy. I only voted for him because he's been better than corrupt Trump. I mean, yeah, that's I mean, like, that's true for a lot of democracies. We vote for who we can, and then we live with what we have. Okay, guys, we're 1,338 people here watching. Thank you so much. Please like, share this video, especially on your social networks. It's really help the channel grow. Really helps getting the actual message spread out on the internet, so more people can actually see the truth about what's happening in Ukraine and not the populist shit that is spreading all around with people quoting Russian propaganda. Otherwise than that, if you have some comments for me, please write with an @Ukraine Matters in chat, and it will highlight for me and I will be able to read it. Rolofi, Putin claims 7.4 million ruble death benefit alone, 500 per day or 200,000 per dead. That's over 20 billion per year. No way they pay this. It's BS. Yes, I mean, you're on point. If, for example, a soldier is, how do we say, missed in action, for example, like half of the crew of the Moskva, they're still missing in action. So these missing in action folks, well, like you don't pay death credits for people that are missing in action on the cruiser in the sea. Ronaldo, do you think once Crimea is captured, there will be all it takes to end? Wait, do you think once Crimea is captured, that will be all it takes to end the war, or will Ukraine still need to continue liberating land? I believe there will still be pockets of resistance, but it's a devastating moral blow. Like, losing Crimea will be absolutely devastating for Putin's regime. That is completely unacceptable for them. Like, Crimea is a crown jewel. Like, if you take that away, who is there? A liar, a bullshitter, and a person that made the life of Russians miserable for 20 years. Now, I don't expect Russian society to make an uprising or anything. I don't expect anything from them. But it's going to be definitely a big devastating moral blow for the Russians. And a lot of the soldiers on the front line will start asking questions, what are we even doing? And that is not good. Yes. Yeah, who gives a flying fuck? Ukraine matters. Don't forget Biden. General Lloyd Austin said that in the end their game is Russian, not capable of waging more anymore. True. Like, this has been the plan. I mean, like, the slow thing of supplies and so on is that for a longer time, US was looking for parties that essentially how to make sure that the collapse of Russia is controllable. They don't want the uncontrollable collapse of the Russian Federation because that's bad for everyone. If nukes suddenly get to some kind of a local break-off radical group, that's not going to benefit anyone. But I think the constant bombing of the population, the hits on the energy networks, it's really pushed the hand of the West very, very heavily. Hello, Profams. Do you think Ukraine needs Leclerc tanks? Yes, more tanks. Shells, 1967. UATV has just dropped a video about jets for Ukraine. Well, good. Martian CK. Given the very slow pace of Western military aid to Ukraine, it seems we're looking towards very rough weeks or months ahead before things get better. Well, fair point. Like, we need to give fair credit to the West where it's due. I did a video where I reviewed like how much of it is actually supplied, and the amount of stuff that is supplied to Ukraine is quite unprecedented compared, for example, to the Lend-Lease that was supplied to the Soviet Union during the Second World War. What is supplied to Ukraine right now is, it's like heads over and over above whatever the Soviet Union received from the US. That said, we're also seeing that production is now speeding up. We see constant acknowledgements that the production, for example, 155 millimeter rounds, US is stating within 2 years they want to increase the production 600%. They want to get it to 90,000 per year. Rheinmetall says that they can produce about 460,000 155 millimeter rounds per year if needed be. So we see the production machine that was stalled for a very long time has now been revitalized. And a lot of the equipment that Ukraine is using, the rate of what Ukraine is using is not something that the Allies can sustain without serious commitment. Aslan, give 20 Ukraine Matters memberships. Thank you so much, Aslan. I appreciate it. Welcome all of the new members to the channel. We're going to make things a lot better. And I'm actually going to have an announcement just a little bit better. Just a little bit later. Okay. Ooh, so many. Okay. Another year of Ukraine Matters, for sure. Colin McCurley. Hi, Georgie. Do you see my email suggesting that non-NATO democracies should send troops to fight in Ukraine, AG, the Australian Armored Regiment, the queue of Abrams, they'll arrive? I do not think they should. Okay, I know. I do not think they should. I think if we were to send troops to fight for Ukraine, we should have done it before. I think Ukraine has the capabilities and manpower to fight Russia off. I think the fact that Ukraine will defeat Russia will send a stronger message, and it's going to be better for the world in a long-term perspective that even without getting our hands dirty, the West has enough power inside of its stocks to crush any aggressor. I think that's just going to send a lot stronger message. And we've seen that democracies and nations that are won by the people that are fighting for that democracy is valued a lot more. It makes for a stronger democracy. And Ukraine can win this. Ukraine already has been winning this for a while now. It's just to reduce the cost at which Ukraine wins this, they just need the tools. So I think we just need to do what Ukraine asks and send them the tools. That's it. That's the whole thing that we do. Why would we risk our lives, like Westerners, if Ukraine says, just give us the stuff and we'll do the job? And it's going to be better for a lot of people. Helen Dunn, will Ukraine's S-300 systems hold, meaning there will be enough missiles for Ukraine? I'm afraid Russia is attritioning air defense with these missile attacks. Yes, but the West is providing additional new systems. So it's a valid risk to have. Absolutely. What is going to be consequence of losing Bakhmut, which is only a matter of time, which is the current Russian momentum? Not much. The biggest risk of Bakhmut, as I explained quite a lot 6 months ago, is that Bakhmut allows essentially the exit towards Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Konstantinovka city chain, which is not very nice. The problem for Russians is that the land after Bakhmut is literally going up the hill. It's an uphill movement for Russians. So they will just stumble upon defensive position and defensive position and defensive position. Before the loss of Kupiansk and Izium, the strike from Bakhmut towards Sloviansk would be devastating because there would be also a huge attack from the north, from Izium. And it would be a pincer movement essentially from two sides. And Ukraine would be in a really tough position. Right now, losing of Bakhmut, it's a big fortification point. Like, it's a nice point to kill a lot of Russians with relatively low casualties for Ukrainians. And when I say relatively low, you need to understand what I'm saying, because I was reading this and it's like German intelligence shocked that Ukraine is suffering 3-digit casualties per day around Bakhmut. And I was like, yeah, that's the fighting. Like, that's everyone is saying. So it's like when people state that's like Ukraine is like losing about 1 to 5, 1 to 7 people to the Russians, but they're still losing people. So when we say Ukrainians killed 800 Russians, that also mean that there is also over what is it, like 100 something, 150, 120. I cannot do math. That's the number. So it's kind of hilarious for me. That's like, wow, people die in the war and get injured. What? Wow. You don't need to be an intelligence analyst to realize that. Am I dumb? Like, tell me if I'm dumb, chat. It's like, it's like 2 and 2 together. Like, what? Yeah. All right, Mika Raska. Finland has produced artillery shells in full capacity for a few months already. Finland is one of the 2 countries in Europe that didn't give up on its defenses. Finland still had the recruiting army. Finland has military capacity. Finland is one of the most, if not the most prepared country in Europe. When I'm saying like to defend itself. No, not for one, but for all Ukraine. How can American without medical or military experience go to Ukraine and volunteer? I mean, the best civilians. We need to understand that Ukraine doesn't need anyone to fight for it that doesn't have experience. Like, all of the Foreign Legion mercenaries are ex-veteran soldiers or whatnot. Ukraine doesn't need untrained troops. What Ukraine needs is support for civilians. That is very nice. And support for the military. So the best thing you can do is reach out to the Ukrainian embassy and ask them how can you help. That's the best thing, because a lot of Ukrainian embassies are helping coordinate a lot of efforts. And I've heard positive reviews of people reaching out to Ukrainian embassies. So if you're not trained in military, you shouldn't go. You will be more of a problem for Ukrainians than a boon. Did you hear the old Cherokee saying on the shills yesterday? That was a good one. No, I haven't, unfortunately. David Sharpie, do you think producers held back to force nations to deplete their stockpiles or products to ensure a market going forward, regardless of what happens in Ukraine? Do you think the producers held back to force nations to deplete their stockpiles? The producers are interested in long-term dedications. That's the only goal. So the only kind of thing that producers are interested is like, will you still need shells 2 months from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, 2 years? If you're not going to need this amount of shell production in a year, why would we invest in expanding our production lines? That's the biggest questions that the producers are having. So for US, for example, depleting their stocks in Korea, for example, that sends a very clear message that there is a requirement for a significant replenishment. It's just a thing that is. And it's a very clear message to producers. Are you interested in a Q&A with James Vasquez? Who is James Vasquez? Okay, I'm going to Google this. James Vasquez. I'm not trying to be a bitch. I just don't know who it is. James Vasquez. Okay, so he's fighting in Ukraine. I can see. So he's a Ukrainian fighter, I would guess. I mean, sure, though I'm not a very good interviewer. There are plenty of other channels that do interviews, but sure. James looks like a decent guy from the short overview that I just got. So, Mark Garcia, Georgie, please remind everyone to write to their country's national representative and push them to support Ukraine more. Everyone, please, if you have the capability to write one email this week, please dedicate like 10 minutes to write an email to your representative in your country and ask for more support for Ukraine. Like, that would be a big deal. Just 10 minutes of your time to write one email, and that would be really, really important. Thank you. Lil Bobs, and I'm gonna actually do 2 minutes more, and then I'm gonna discuss today's topic, and then I'm gonna continue answering questions. If Bakhmut is strategically unimportant in the grand scheme, why has Ukraine diverted so many forces there? It is to prevent a moral victory for Russia. I mean, I just explained this. Like, did I not explain this, chat? I'd explain this. It's a great place to kill Russians. Russians, for some godforsaken reason, decided that it is a good place to sacrifice a lot of their troops with relatively a few casualties to Ukrainians, especially the favorable ratio for Ukraine. Why, in a world, like, what are you suggesting, that Ukraine just leave? Why? Like, why leave if Russians are just coming and sacrificing themselves there? Yes, it's hard, but I mean, it's good. Less Russians. Am I dumb? I hope I'm not dumb. So that's why Ukraine is following it, to kill more Russians. Killing Russians is good. And if they don't want to get killed, get the fuck out of Ukraine. What do you think, the Buzz? What do you think the war situation will be like in 1 year's time? Thanks for £5. Really depends on the amount of support Ukraine gets. If the tank support that Ukraine is getting right now is going to happen every couple of months, then we might see that by the end of 2023, the war is going to be coming to an end. Then Russia will be kicked out of Ukraine and everything. If not, if there's going to be a big discussion and slowdown of supplies for Ukraine, then this war can drag on. So everything is dependent whether of Ukraine gets the tools or not. That's pretty much it. I will talk about Russian offensive today. It's the main topic of today's discussion, so I'm gonna return to that. Isaac, okay. Last few comments. What do you think about Brazil under Bolsonaro and right Lula continue? I mean, it's hard to ask because Brazil or India or China, they do not have a stake in this fight. They win either way. So what would they get if they start supporting Ukraine? Moral high ground, maybe, but they're not part of the Western world. And in more senses than not, oftentimes they're criticizing the West for interfering too much into their politics. So when we're talking that the Western-style democracies are fighting against Russian authoritarianism, this is what Annalena Baerbock is saying. So asking that India, for example, that India would support Ukraine, it's not in their interest. In their interest to get the foothold as a power themselves is that if West and Russia are weaker. So it's a political game. So they are not the party participating in it. So that's why they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, why not? Also, I don't think it was Bolsonaro. It was Lula now. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, they're not obliged to send anything. So, I mean, no one is obliged to send anything. It's just for the Western-style democracies, this is a very relevant question. Yes. Michael Rizzuti, it's clear to me that strategies behind being devised for Ukraine are being devised at the Pentagon, and US interest is not always in line with the best for Ukraine. I mean, you're wrong. The strategies for Ukraine are devised in Ukraine. However, each country and each bloc has also a strategy for what they want to do with Ukraine. And I think it's mostly to do what they want to do with Russia, and most important, more precisely, what to do with nukes. Like, I think if Russia would not have nukes, we would not have this war for a year. It would be already over. We can agree on this? I hope we can agree on this. All right, let's stop questions here, guys. Thank you. Let's get a pause and let me make a speech again. So first things first, I actually should have started with this. I misspoke in my tank discussion. I said that Abrams tanks in US are being refitted with not with depleted uranium armor, like it's a ceramic, like it's a Ukrainian depleted mesh with a ceramic composite or something like this. And it's being replaced by tungsten. And I said lead. I don't know why I said lead. Brain fart, whatever. I did not mean lead. It is tungsten. Okay. That's cleared out. So then what we're going to be talking today. What's the point of today's discussion? Like, why is it Subhero, thanks for the Bulgarian leva. I will answer this. Thanks for the good work and nice stream. Wanted to do a shout out for another pro-Ukraine channel, ATP Geopolitics, Slava Ukraine. Sure, I haven't checked out ATP Geopolitics, maybe. Anyway, what are we talking today? When I'm speaking about a failed, not a failed offensive, but like a dismissal of the Russian offensive, the biggest problem that we're seeing right now is that Russia ran out of tactics. We see that during the autumn, early winter period, the big kind of initiative and a strategic guidance, strategic kind of initiative that Russia had was driven by the Wagnerite forces. They proposed a solution to the Russian standstill problem. And the solution was, give us a lot of fresh meat that we can throw, and we're going to overwhelm Ukrainians that they run out of bullets. And it kind of worked, but the the rate of Russians dying and Russian prisoners as well was still not good enough. Like, they died really well, but the Ukrainians are still having depletion and they still hold the land around Bakhmut. So this tactic did not prove to be that great, which led us to the position that we are right now. Putin has essentially taken the power from the general staff, generals and Prigozhin that were promoting this kind of strategy. And he has put Gerasimov in charge. And Gerasimov, he has two kind of things. First, he is an old school Soviet style leader. He is the person that, one of the big things that came out to the news is that the Russians were required now to shave. It was not to what the media said to prepare Russians to use chemical weapons. It was crazy conspiracy. It was just to implement the how do you say, the discipline inside of the military. Because if you would open like how to, if you are a leader of an army, how the army should be made. And there is like saying, so there should be standards, there should be procedures for everything, and Russian army should be standardized. That's how the Soviet doctrine required it. So when they introduced essentially shaving protocol, they actually with that also introduced the reporting protocols. They started to phasing out some of the paramilitary companies, starting to put them into some of the military systems. So it was less about chemical weapon preparation and more about for Gerasimov to take control of this, not a military, but the plethora of completely dispersed groups with own interest that only seemingly can work towards a common objective. So Gerasimov proposed that if we take control of our forces, we can actually get something done. Why does this matter? Well, the second part of Gerasimov is also hybrid warfare. So Gerasimov was the person that actually introduced hyper warfare into Russian military. So right now we're seeing a lot more attacks on Ukrainians in the hybrid style. So that's why, for example, we're seeing all of the tries of picking up like the Ukrainian corruption. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. And all of the different tactics of trying to undermine Ukraine online, trying to get more propaganda, trying to utilize a lot more troll factories and whatnot. That's why we had also a big explosion in troll count recently. This is also because of that. So this brings us to the point that what Gerasimov does. Now he's in charge. And for Ukraine in general, this is worse. Why? Because instead of just having these crowds of Russians with different interests having a little bit of infighting and so on, at some point it will become an actual military, a very shitty one, but a military nonetheless, like at least a machine that will be able to execute single vision, single objectives that will be set by Gerasimov. That is on one side. And then the important point that I was getting to all along is that now Gerasimov can actually state realistic objectives. So when Putin says, I want to capture Ukraine, Gerasimov, by being in charge, by being actual person with military knowledge, can actually say that is not possible. Like, it is impossible to achieve what is desired with the resources that they have. And if for example, for Wagner, that would be by losing people and so on. For Gerasimov, it's not the same, because he's also very much aware of the fact that Russia needs a military to defend itself after the war is over. And people have noticed that Putin's, after setting Gerasimov in place, and a couple of weeks after that, Putin's rhetoric changed. He doesn't really talk about a lot of the talks about what should be done with Donbass people, how they should be recognized in these republics, how should we recognize. No. Now he was talking about we should do whatever we can to stop the enemy's influence over Russia. It's a huge change in rhetoric, because now he removes any kind of claims essentially for what's the achievable things we need to do in Ukraine, and says something that can be interpreted wildly. So this can be easily a first hybrid step of preparation to this, because the truth is that we are not seeing a major mobilization drive for Russia. The timing is already there. They should have started mobilizing around the 5th of January. We are now at the end of January, and there is still no mobilization in sight. I mean, there is happening some of the recruitment, but I'm talking about mass mobilization. Moreover, we are knowing that if it's going to be a mobilization, it's not going to be an open mobilization. So the problem with not announcing a mobilization effort is that you will be stuck with ability to recruit only a certain number of people. Because if there is no public mobilization, there is no call. And if there is, that's a completely different thing. And again, this is all like an interesting theory, like a thought process. So what can happen with the troops that Russia is already sending into the front lines? I already explained to you that Russia has about 330,000 troops on the front lines, and they had about 100,000 in reserves that they had. And this is normal. Like for anyone that's like more or less read, he knows that, yes, that's about the ratio that you should have to advance. Not to advance, but to have in reserves. The problem is this is not nearly enough for a large scale offensive. So the mobilized should have been there already to start that offensive. And if it's going to get delayed, then we're going to end up with Russian troops not ready and Ukrainians already receiving all of the goods that they've been promised at the Ramstein meetings, and maybe even new capabilities. And the Russian generals are aware of that. So the theory that basically I've heard, and I'm just explaining to you right now, is that Gerasimov take control. He assessed the troops and what's the situation, and he reported to Putin saying, the best thing we can achieve with the resources that we're having is maybe take Bakhmut, go up, and maybe siege Sloviansk from one side. That's it. No major attack from the north, no major attack from the south, no significant push from the Luhansk area towards Liman. Nothing like this. The forces are just not there. There is not enough strength for the Russian army. To which Putin said this is not nearly enough, but Gerasimov said this is what we can achieve realistically. And this brought up basically that other perspective, that there might not be an attack at all that is coming, and it's all part of the hybrid strategy. It's all part of trying to squeeze out some kind of a position for Ukraine, to use some kind of fear tactic. Well, if it was backfiring a lot. But the point is that right now there are activities of Russians, small attacks all over the front lines. This is not really attacking. This is not an attack. They don't have the resources to attack significantly Ukrainians. They have the resources to do these small incremental gains around Bakhmut and so on. The problem, that is not nearly enough to achieve any kind of huge strategic goals. And right now, Russians are saying, let's put our eggs in the basket of hybrid warfare. When mobilization comes, we are just need right now to improve our positions so we can dig in, have the best defensive line possible. So use like the forces that we're having now to push Ukrainians to the less favorable positions, and then dig in. Newly mobilized people will come in, they will settle in these positions, and then Ukrainians will not be able to move us. That is what is being discussed. And to be honest, for me personally, it makes sense, Because I've explained you a lot. Like people are saying is like, oh, they were gonna attack from the Kyiv and so on. But it's a heavily fortified area. There's like no chance they're getting there. They need millions of people. And they're saying, oh, we're gonna mobilize another 250,000. That is not enough. That is not enough. The whole rumor about the fact that Ukraine needs to mobilize, again, that's Russian propaganda. It wasn't Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't do it. So we're hearing a lot more hybrid threats. So I think that it's quite possible that what Gerasimov is doing is he is trying to improve their positions tactically, so then have the positions fortified with the freshly mobilized new troops, solidify the lines, and try to undermine Ukraine through the hybrid warfare. That's the plan. That's the plan that is produced. And for me personally, it makes sense. Because Putin's speech changed. He definitely heard a dose of reality struck to him from we're going to denazify Ukraine in 3 days to now being a year inside of the one of the most bloodiest war, where he already lost half of the equipment that was accumulated for over 50 years by the Soviet Union. So that's just something for you to think. Some of the ideas that I've heard discussing this, and this is something for us to be aware of. So if you will see something, please share. And just an interesting thought, I guess, for you to take away from this stream, that this might be the case. I don't have, how do you say, I don't have access to Putin's mind, so I don't know. But this is the thing that some of the analysts were saying, because the capabilities that Russia is having just don't allow a massive scale attack. They don't. They just don't. And even the small attacks that Russia is doing right now are costly. The human waves attacks have proven themselves a failure besides Wagner, because if the people are not prisoners, they don't want to attack. They tried it on the south side and everything failed miserably. All of these attacks at the south were extremely costly. So that's not working for the Russian regular army, because Russian regular army is not Wagner that can fight and just send prisoners. And by the way, Wagner was able to recruit 20,000 more prisoners, but it's not extended to the whole Russian military. And Gerasimov, being a Soviet commander, he can evaluate what's the actual capabilities of the Russian military. Sergei L. Gur, the main intelligence department of the Ministry of Defense Ukraine, warned about massive disinformation campaign to damage support for Ukraine. Yes, exactly. Because Gerasimov is the father of the hybrid warfare doctrine. Kremlin still betting on the West to eventually undermine Ukraine and force negotiation settlements, because West has zero endurance for protracted war. That is my concern. Well, right now, Kellen Dunn, we are seeing that the West has all of the capacity. Make sure you find time to watch Perrin. I will watch Perrin for sure. Roman Francisco, hi, I agree with you. I think they will settle with Bakhmut and a small area around it when they dig in and hope Ukraine fails in counteroffensive, hence VDV and Bakhmut. Yes, pretty much. Like that's kind of the theory, because it doesn't make sense. Like Ukraine has more than 1 million men's army. Yes, they have to protect the whole border, but they do have 1 million army. Yes, some of them are the second army that's supposed to be attacking, and usually it's more larger part of the army. But we do know that Ukraine has resources, and they are aware of that. That if Ukraine is going to engage those resources, they're not getting anywhere. So I am not sure that, like, say, okay, we're going to mobilize more. Yes, but Ukraine is also getting more equipment. So at some point, the rate at which your troops are dying is not going to matter, like, because everyone is going to get grind down. IRGC base in Akhabad has just been hit. Good. 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 I wonder how long Russia still has stock artillery. They might reach some point in 1 or 2 months where they want to dig in, but by the time they will have another 200 to 300 pieces less. They already have. They already don't have enough artillery to do their favorite tactic in Ukraine. They can't. They already said, our artillery is not sufficient to execute large-scale offensive. So you have like this, some narrow maneuvers, like tactical ones, yes, enough, but a large-scale firewall that would essentially grind cities into dust, they do not have the capability anymore. And Russian army is not trained nearly enough to execute complex maneuvers. Did you talk about tanks? Yes, I had a whole video about tanks. You should watch it. My last video, I talked about tanks. Tanks. Tanks are good. John Rickards, who do you think started going drone attacks in Iran? Israeli? Maybe. I mean, Israel is the most obvious answer, but it might have been someone else. I don't know. We'll find out eventually. Richard Parnell, I haven't heard any analysts talk about it yet, so I might have my personal guesses, but people who watch me regularly, they already said, like, Georgie, when you're explaining, like, keep to the things that, like, you know of. Don't put your own stuff in it, like, because, like, you sound dumb. So I will not put my own stuff in because I sound dumb. Victor Parnell, have you looked at the long-term demographic consequence for Russia? They had looming problem with the fighting age range. Yeah. This is the, what is it, the Peter Zeihan school of thought. That's like, wow, Russia went to Ukraine to capture Ukraine to fix its demographic problem long-term in 50 years. So they decided to now sacrifice all of these. No, it's a complete BS. It just doesn't hold up to scrutiny. This theory of Russia having a long-term problem of demographics, and that's why Putin went to war. It's completely like out there. Someone thought it just sounded good and just ran with it. Sorry, I'm late. Anders Pak Nielsen suggested that privatization of Russian military has demotivated ending the war. Exactly, and that's why Gerasimov is now basically scrambling to reorganize Russian military. That is the quintessential, that before it was Wagnerites that said, let's privatize Russian military. And then Putin says, like, well, you cannot answer to me what I want to hear. You cannot achieve results. Why do you need to do? Let's get Gerasimov back in. He's like an old Soviet-style general. He can make sense of it. So now he's trying to make sure that all of these privatized mercenaries start shaving and putting the same clothes on. Well, good luck. Swedish Slacker, if we presume Russian tactic is to dig in and defend, wouldn't be Ukraine's interest to attack quickly? No, not necessarily. Firstly, Russians still want to attack, right? They're still attacking. They're still putting in troops, so they're not going to defense. I mean, Russian doctrine by itself is based around attack. The whole point of Russia is like, it's a preventive attack. Attack your enemy so he never gathers strength to attack you. So a lot of their points is like, if we attack aggressively enough, Ukraine will be forced to use reserves that they're preparing for counteroffensive, and that means that the counteroffensive of Ukraine will not come. So I think that was how it was explained to me. Grizzly HP2, some Western leaders talk about we have to win this war. The USA talks a different tone, more a spirit of help Ukraine stop Russia. I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard people from US politicians saying that it's going to be win the war. So, and so far the actions of US didn't really suggest it's I know it's a running theory, but to be honest, factual results go against it. I see a lot of political flip-flopping in the West, especially in European countries, but I do not think that it's a malicious one. It feels that it's more of a just uncertainty in the face of existential threat. And we need to also understand that when we are saying that the Westernist things are not doing fast enough, we are seeing European country and European continent as a whole remilitarize itself and turn on its head the policy that it had for the last 60 years. So if we're talking in the war terms, the speed of changes that is happening in European Union, it's slow. It's like snail pace. But if we consider that this is a long-standing democracies with policies of peace that have been built up over decades, then whatever changes are happening right now are literally light speed. So I do not think that there is a gap in between those two to put some malicious intent. Doesn't mean there isn't any, especially because we know how many Russian cronies there are in pretty much every democratic country. But overall, it seems that we're trying to do the best despite what we've essentially been brought up to as a democratic country. Democratic countries. Did we talk about Olympics? I mean, I don't know what to say about Olympics. Like, it's a difficult topic to ask. Like Olympics, I'm not sure if it's even private company. Is Olympics like a private organization that organizes this? Because if it's a private organization, they can do whatever they want, right? It's capitalism. They can invite whoever they want. It's just because we made it a big deal, it's a big deal, right? So can we shame them? Yeah, probably we should. Like we should explain to them that inviting Russia is not ethical, but saying that it's a must, I'm not sure. Do we pay them? I'm not sure if we're paying them. If we're paying them, then I'm going to ask that they don't add Russia. That's basically my capitalist mindset on this. It's like, yeah, bitch, if you're taking my money, you better not get some dictatorships in there. But that's my personal position. So I'm not sure what position should we take. Russia bombing in Iran, yes. Sitting and thinking, absolutely. John Richards, okay, if you once say who was it nice watch the VAR factory burn, lol. Yes, bomb the fuck out of Iran until it becomes democratic. Fucking freedom bombs. Gotta free those drone factories from existence. Yeah. I approve of that. I'm not a peaceful guy. Like, how is it? I'm not a pacifist. Like, I think democracies need to have big fists, big fucking guns to explain to everyone that goes against democracies that they're wrong. That's my motto. I like that. Is Israel who attacked them? Yeah, I think so. But again, I don't know. So I will not share. Is GLSDB going to affect things? Yes. If and when when GLSDB comes, they will really improve things for Ukraine. Olympics should been representing the country, not individual. Fair point, but Putin's Russia is pretty much a country that is full of shit. So, Andrew Asen, 20 Canadian dollars. Keep up the great work. Absolutely. Is it true that Russia has now lost 70% of its K alligator helicopters? Well, precise numbers are not known. It's always estimates, right? So whatever we're seeing on the charts and so on, it's always estimates. With that said, Russia had troubles finding high-grade stuff to build a lot of equipment. So it's quite possible. I mean, helicopters have been having the rough end of this war, because the airspace is always contested, which is like crucial for helicopters to operate in an uncontested airspace. Usually helicopters were used as a close air support in cases when the situation was super dire. For example, I know Russian helicopters were used actively when Russians were retreating from Kherson. Yes, helicopters did fall, but it allowed essentially to save a couple of VDV units, regiments, and so on. So it was essentially a cost that Russia was okay giving up in. I just checked your channel list and I think War Carol would be worth adding. Okay, I'm gonna save it. War Carol. Haven't heard about that one before. War Carol interview. The recent had a cool military analysis interview with Justin Brooke. I mean, it's not only military. Like, do they support Ukraine? That's important. Like, if they don't support Ukraine, I'm not gonna add them. Support fucking Ukraine. Support armed forces of Ukraine. They're the best negotiations, the best negotiators against Putin. BLP Iraq. Sorry for butchering the name. Thanks for $10. Europe bought Russian gas because it was cheap and they didn't invest in their militaries as much as they should have because they counted on the US to protect them. Exactly. Huge mistake. Terrible mistake. Has been told to pretty much many European states that it's a big mistake. It's a huge mistake. It's a terrible mistake. Done it anyway. And I mean, if I would be younger back then and I would be speaking out publicly and saying, oh, it's going to be a problem, now I would be saying, told you so. But since I didn't, well, but I told you so. Germany won't send fighter jets to Ukraine. We've been all over this. Germany won't send anything to Ukraine. We've been like, are we doing this again? Are we doing this again? I hope we're not doing this again. Can GLSDB be converted to air-launched? I don't think they need to be, because air-launched, Ukraine is already getting these, how do we say, like the smart bombs. I forgot what were the name of them. They also had a funny abbreviation. Who died in Putin's helicopter crash? Who knows? Shenanigans. Why do you have the Mercado Media on your channel? That's a good question. Why don't I have Mercado Media on my channel? I will consider adding them after the stream. Any thoughts on Russian involvement in that Quran burning in Finland, or was it the topic talked about already? No, I haven't talked about the topic. So I know very well who burned the Quran, because obviously I'm from Denmark, and we have this guy, his name is Rasmus Paludan. He is like a member or even like a leader of the complete fascist Nazis, whatever, like party that in Denmark. Their motto is, if you are Muslim, you need to be thrown out of Denmark to whatever place. If you're living in Denmark, you only can live in Denmark if you can prove that you can speak Danish, you are white, you can prove that you have Danish blood in you somewhere. So it's like, it's like a complete. He just is like Muslim, bad. He doesn't even distinguish anything. So he's a big hater. But the point is, he's been making show like this, like burning of Quran. He was playing like football with Quran and so on inside of Denmark. And he kind of became infamous because of that. And in Denmark, to be honest, no one already gives a shit about him. Like, there were videos, latest one when he came to like places where a lot of Muslim lives in Denmark. And then he would be like trying to provoke them. And the guys, the Muslim guy would just surround him and says like, dude, like no one cares. Like you're just a joke. So he became pretty much a joke in Denmark. No one really took him serious. His party didn't really do that hot, despite us having some of the Nazi parties. But he thought that's like, okay, I'm going to go then to Sweden, because Sweden had like the Swedish Democrats that were rising, getting popularity and whatnot. And he kind of joined their overall movement. So, and he started doing some things. And then now people say that it was like some pro-Russian commentator or a journalist or a persona that paid him the money to burn Quran in front of the Turkish embassy. To be honest, it's a possibility, but then again, he's a freak. Like, he has been doing this since forever. So making a big deal of it is only because Turkey wants to make a big deal of it. Because Erdogan has fucked up Turkish economy, and now he's trying to figure out how to squeeze his way through the election process that is coming up. And he doesn't have still the election machine fully under his belt, so that's why he's a little bit worried. That's pretty much the whole situation with the burning of Quran. Beer of Coffee Fund low. Thanks, Mark Raven. Thanks for 20 pounds. Really appreciate it. I want to plug Subcomimus. Does some really good narrow analysis aspect. Yeah, Subcomimus is amazing. He actually commented on my channel, and I was really appreciative of that. So super cool guy, amazing. If you can, watch his channel, subscribe to him, support YouTubers, love. Greg Watkins at Ukraine Matters. I like that fact that Ukraine, when don't know something, you don't offer an opinion on it. I mean, sometimes I do. This is still my opinion blog channel ish, right? I don't post any kind of sources or whatnot. I try to keep it clear, but it's still overall my opinion blog. Ranyana Basso, welcome to Brother in Arms. Thank you for joining. The US has been trying to push NATO countries to spend 2% of GDP on military defense going since Trump was in office. Vice Hearn. Yeah. I mean, it was happening before Trump. Trump was just like very radical about this. But this discussion that the countries need to spend more than 2%, yada, yada, yada. It's been going on forever. So it was happening before Trump. It was happening during Trump. It was happening after Trump. And now they're like, shit, we should probably spend more than 2%. We are 1,620 people watching, guys. Thank you so much for liking this stream, sharing it. Super important for the channel to grow, so more people hear about the actual things, hear my really bad jokes, really bad takes, and hear the voice of democracy. Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you. We are already 1 hour, 30 minutes in. I want to do another speech, a very short one this time. It's not really the point. Just want to answer 200 Swedish kroners rope access work. The Wagner group says they do not belong to the Russian state. The laws of war cannot then apply to them. The crime classification then must be for a criminal gang which goes around and shoots everything that moves. Correct. In Ukraine, technically, they are not combatants because they don't belong to the combating party. Therefore, they're just criminals, imprisoning people, killing people, so they can be prosecuted by the Ukrainian criminal code. So nothing stops them. Nothing takes away. So they cannot take the I was just following orders plea after Ukraine wins the war. Yes. Septic Lama, do you think Ukraine will wait with using their Bradleys until they get their tanks? Yes. The integrated technology is really awesome, and working together it could be really big. Yes. I think Bradleys definitely will go into the attacking force, and it's going to be consisting both with tanks and this is, oh my god, this is the stupidest argument. Oh my god, guys, I was face palming myself so hard that I think I got like some concussion. But people saying it's like, wow, did you know like the 100 tanks that are going to get supplied are not enough tanks to cover 1,500 square kilometers front line that Ukraine is having. And I was, yes, that's, I mean, yes, but the carpet, like the tanks are not carpets. Like they don't need to be judged by how much territory they're covering. The tank's objectives, when we're talking offensive, is to be on the spearhead of a very narrow place on the battle lines to break the enemy defensive positions, the multi-layered defense, break through it, and allow essentially the troops to sip in behind the enemy lines, roughly speaking, or at least from the sides, to overcome enemy positions in a very specific narrow direction. It doesn't have to be the whole 1,500 kilometers line. And I thought it was so obvious. So that was one of the dumbest arguments I've heard during this whole situation around the war. That was so bad. That was so bad. Okay, we need more tanks for sure. For sure, Betty. So, answering the question of Ukrainian corruption. It's called flanking, yes. Answering the question of Ukrainian corruption. So, we had these past weeks a big problem in Ukraine that it had some issues within their government system. And we need to understand first and foremost that it's a catch-22 for Russia. Because any kind of this activities with corruption, it's a complete victory for Russia, and they can twist and turn it anyway. So if you heard that this is bad, that Ukraine has it, that means it's just you've heard one or the other side of the story, because both sides are going to twist it. Because if there is a corruption that is reported in Ukraine by Ukrainian journalists, we got to say, so it's like checks and balances. We agree. So journalists find out that there are some problems with buying stuff for the army, that army of Ukraine is overpaying for, I think it was food. So overpaying for food. Fair enough, a corruption case. So for propaganda then to say is like, well, look at this, Ukraine has corruption. And then if Ukraine doesn't do anything, then you just say, well, Ukraine has corruption and they're not doing anything with corruption. Well, and then if Ukraine, for example, does something, then they just say, well, look at this, Ukraine has so much corruption that they even have to get people removed from their positions. So it's a no-win situation when we're talking about the Russian propaganda for Ukraine, I mean. However, it was actually met with rational perspective on the West, which is I'm really favorable on, because let's be honest, guys. Let's be honest with each other. Like usually I'm the one speaking, but like I want you to speak with me right now. So let's try to say it together. It's like if we're trying together, so like I, with all honesty, can say that in our military we never overpay for everything, for anything. And we say, I, with all honesty, can say that in our military we never overpay for anything, and you actually can be serious to that, like, and truthful. I'm gonna give you a golden star, whatever, like everything, because there is not a single military in the world that haven't overpaid for anything, like be it American, German, whatnot. There is not a military institution that have not cheated or bought something for some ludicrous prices, and you're like, how did this happen? So when we say that there has been Ukrainian military, and Ukrainian military, someone overpaid for some deliverables to military, that is not really that is a very uncommon, like a very, very common case of corruption. Let's put it this way. So overpriced food for a fighting country is a big deal. That's why it's important that it's going to get picked up upon, and that's why it's really nice to get people actually taking responsibility. And that's why I think it's really relevant that the people that were responsible for this, once pointed out by journalists, decided to leave their positions within the military structures. So what is happening in Ukraine, to be honest, for me, is a major success. For a longer period of time, I was saying that the Ukraine that we remember before 2022, 24 February, does not exist anymore. The country that's going to be at the end of this war will have almost nothing in common with what Ukraine was before the February 24th. And that is really good, because by the decisions and events like this that we're seeing, with Ukraine actually takes the corruption seriously, we see the essentials outlines of what kind of country Ukraine is becoming. As the war will end, if this will continue, and Ukraine will become a country that would treat corruption within their structures with certain level of respect, and especially personal responsibility on the people that are on those positions, and allowed this kind of unnecessary spending to occur, to take responsibility and resign, for me, that Ukraine is miles and miles and miles ahead of even some of the countries that joined the EU and are still struggling with a lot of their internal challenges. So that's my perspective on this corruption case. And I hope once you read the chat, I've read it all, guys, with like your cases of how armies don't overpay for anything in your country. Yeah. So that's why it's a case. That's why I don't find it shocking that something like this happened. And I'm actually quite positively surprised for the changes that are happening within Ukraine. So that's my answer to that. Yeah, there are now procurement laws. Yeah. Yeah, GLSDB is literally a small diameter bomb that's modified to ground launch. Yeah, the air equivalent is GBU-39. Okay, so it's good to know. Stephen Walsh, the tit-tat is hold over from the Cold War and a lot more of Russia than US. The corruption is a historical fact, and from the time Ukraine is funding the war will be better. Yes. Not shocking, but sad. I mean, the world that we live in is just not ideal. We like if this would be an ideal world, then I don't know. There are just things that are worth it and so on. Like democracies are the worst governance structures or I don't know philosophies. Democracies are the worst governance philosophies than we have in our world right now, except they are just a bit better than anything else. Tosin Abbey, did the Russians learn how to shoot down HIMARS rockets? Yes. I saw a video of rude propaganda around claiming Panzer S1 is taking down many GMLRS rockets. You have better knowledge. Yes, they've learned to do that, but Ukrainians are also doing smart things with how they are using these missiles. That's why a lot of location and smaller drones are important because they are having essentially a map of Russian air defenses and what they're covering and so on. So Ukrainians are working very, very smartly. Some of the missiles are now being intercepted, yeah, by Panzers. I work for the Ministry of Defense, and let's say some IT products were purchased in 2020 for twice. Yeah. JC the Music. If we lived in an ideal world, we wouldn't having anything to stream about. I mean, that. Damn. Is there a risk of encirclement in Bakhmut? I'm a bit scared now for that. No, there is no risk of encirclement. Russians are advancing too slowly. Ukrainians are in control of the front line. Even if north and south, like Ivanivsky at the south and Paraskavivka at the north of Bakhmut falls, Ukrainians still have the exit route. The only thing we should expect is maybe Ukrainians falling towards the eastern side of Bakhmut and maybe making preparations on how to leave. There is no encirclement in there. Tactical nukes to Ukraine, why not? Why? Like, Ukraine doesn't need them. The nukes is a tool. It's a tool that should solve certain, like the weapon is a tool that should solve specific problem. There is no good problem that nukes solve without creating bigger problems. So I don't see the point of sending nukes to Ukraine because they create a lot of unnecessary problems for Ukraine, which we can achieve by just sending conventional weapons. You see that post about Belgium selling their Leopard 1Ss, for 15K. I mean, that's the problem of a peace dividend. It's the same problem as Germany is having with like now no Russian gas, cheap gas, whatever. It's the same problem. It's like because Belgium said we don't need tanks, we don't need it, and it was too peaceful. Now the war has come. It's like whoa, tanks are good. We should have tanks. Well, is there proof GMLRS are being intercepted? I've only seen stories on pro-Russian outlets without proof. I mean. It kinda, but even Ukrainian reporters have been intercepted. Mostly, it's been like I've noticed that they've been intercepted. If we, for example, compare that because Ukrainians mostly fire full packages of HIMARS at their targets. So it's either if it's one HIMARS system, it's 6. If it's 2 systems or it's a M270, then it's 12 missiles. So they always fire full packages towards the system. And then, for example, the reporter says we had 3 impacts. And then that makes sense. You know, and this has been happening. And there's been also cloudy videos where the missiles exploded in midair. Supposedly, GMLR has no proof of that because it was like from far away. So there are essentially semi-evidence of this, but it's not impossible. Russians say they shot down HIMARS. Yes, I saw on the third story of the building, or a second story, I don't remember. JC the Music Man, I must say Poland has proven to be a world leader in supporting Ukraine. I mean, yes, Poland, Baltics, because I'm a Latvian, like, and when I see Ukrainians sticking it up to Russians, I feel good. I feel really good. And I'm pretty sure Polish people also feel good. But I also think that they know that if it's not Ukrainians, that it's going to be them that needs to be fighting on the front lines next. And I'm pretty sure that they don't want it. So it's just very, very actual. Thank you for your nuclear stance. I mean, it's just very rational. The nuclears, they just don't. It's the same problem for Putin. Like, if he uses nukes, he's going to create more problems for himself than he's going to solve. That's why I don't really see the argument as like, oh, Putin is just going to nuke everything as a valid argument, because it doesn't solve that much for him. Yeah. Yeah, just use Rapid Dragon, sure. Roger H. Jake Bro showed Russian media video. There was where they say Russia should provide nukes to Iran. They do should this free West to provide nukes to Ukraine, or at least threaten to do so. No. It's Russian propaganda. We need to understand that a lot of Russian propaganda is to motivate Russians. So Russians don't ask questions, why are we fighting? They just need to explain, like, for them it needs to be explained as a thing that they just have to do, because like it's a existential threat for them, the war that they started. But Russian propaganda aims to remove Russians from this discussion, because would you love to discuss in actuality, should the US nuke something or not? Day after day after day after day? Probably not. And this is what's expected. They just don't want Russians to participate in this political discussion. So you're Danish? No, I'm not Danish. I'm Latvian. I had no idea. Hej fra Norge. Tror du Paludan bare er for dum til at forstå, hvilke problemer han skaber på Sverige? Eller tror du, at han støtter Ruslands fascisme? I'm not sure. I mean, like, if he would support Russia, I wouldn't be surprised. It's like this. I mean, I think causing problems for Sweden, I think that was the point, because he wants to get the attention, the media, right? Because he is demanding attention for himself. Did he realize how much he caused? Maybe, but I don't know. Maybe. To be honest, I don't really care. Like, because Turkey could have used any kind of pretext that it wanted to deny Sweden entry. We should see what's going to happen after Erdogan's elections. How far do you think the Russians will be able to advance with their winter offensive, and what is the reason to Ukrainians' lack of response besides holding their positions? Joe. Now, if you would listen to what I was telling about maybe that there will be no offensive, then that would answer your question. But if Russia will attack, if they will dedicate everything, for example, Donbass, one direction, then they will reach Sloviansk, Kramatorsk. They will siege it, and that's it. If they will start Zaporizhia and dedicate all of their forces Zaporizhia, they will reach Zaporizhia, maybe Pavlograd. If they will go on Kiev, they will reach the border. If they will go to Lviv, they will reach Minsk. That's my estimate. Have no fear. Trashcan Putin is here. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Darth Putin. Okay, guys, we are 1,566 people. The time is slowly creeping in at 1 hour and 49 minutes. So we're going to do this stream for 15 minutes more, and then we'll wrap it up. Are you okay with that? I'm okay with that. Thank you so much for all the moderator team. I know how much you are dedicating yourself to help this. Let's talk about a couple of things about your Danish is very good. Can you pronounce my name? Tone Ottensen? Tone Ottensen? Ottensen? Tone Ottensen? Oh my God. No, I cannot pronounce it. I cannot pronounce it. Yes, so firstly, second channel. A lot of people really misunderstood my discussion that I had about the fact that I'm struggling with the ad revenue and so on. And people thought that this is a precursor from me declaring that I will stop streaming, I will stop making videos and so on. And I just want to make sure that I state it as clear as possible. I will not stop doing this channel. I did not start doing this channel for money's sake. I am well taken care of with my primary job. Andrew Asan, thank you so much. Welcome to St. Javelin Brotherhood. I'm well taken care of from my primary job. I have a good career. I am very happy with what I'm doing in my primary job. So my financial position is good. The only thing I need from this channel is essentially to pay for a lot of the things that are related to YouTube's activity. It's like the taxes, it's the some of the bills for like the software that I'm using to help maybe get some lights. I'm having a discussion right now with some of the people. So basically the 50% that I keep is like to improve the channel. I don't really need it to for my personal life. The other 50%, what I'm happy when I'm earning money from this channel is I'm sending to Ukraine. And this is a lot smaller amount than a lot of people think. People think that I'm earning like hundreds of thousands of euros here, which I'm not. It's a lot smaller amount. Like, I mean, especially because my ad revenue is like, what, $2 per video now. But that doesn't matter. Essentially, after taxes and so on, it gets to, you know, a couple hundred of bucks. So it's not a lot, but it's a lot more than I would be able to help Ukraine with if I would be just working my day job, right? So that's why it's good. That's why it matters. That's why Ukraine matters. Stephen Walsh, thanks for 200 bucks. Oh, you keep doing what you're doing. Ukraine will win. Ukraine will definitely win, my friend. And thank you so much for this great support. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I will treat Ali with for sure, right? This how to help out and how to support a moderator team is going to be on the questions that we're going to be discussing. So important thing. So instead of me doing less YouTube, my answer to the challenge of not having enough money is to do more YouTube. So what I'm considering is I'm gonna start a second channel, and second channel I will be focusing a lot more of I don't have a topic yet for that. So for now, it's going to be just general discussion. I think I really like the format where I take one specific questions and then I, for example, make a video every day or almost every day discussing one specific topics. It might be related to Ukraine or it might be not related, but it's where, for example, you can have an input where I take some kind of interesting questions or suggestion, and then we can have a whole video dedicated to discussion of that. So my point is that more YouTube is answer if we want more money. That's basically it. And then secondly, we will talk with Ali and maybe other people from moderating teams on how to set up social networks, because I think we need a little bit more interactivity. I know some of you have asked for like merch and everything, and I don't really know how to set it up. It will take for me some time to figure out. But at this point, we're going to set up some kind of a Discord server most probably. Most probably it's going to be Discord because I think it allows both the chat functionality and also allows to post some kind of channels with news and statements from me. And then we're going to have better, because to be honest, I find the YouTube community tab useful, but also somewhat lacking. I feel that it's I can do a little bit more. So that's the goal. More YouTube, more interaction. So my answer to any kind of problems with monetization is not to give up, it's to do more. And I will be able to do more only because with the great support of the moderator team that we're having. Ali, big thanks to you, especially because you're always supporting me with your suggestions by email. I really appreciate it. And to everyone else that are watching it, we're going to figure something out. I really want you to be part of this small but really great community where we're going to discuss the relevance of democracy. We're going to be really, really nice to each other. And we're going to fucking show Putin where's his place on the world stage. The Bald DC. Do you know that Putin registered a real estate company in Germany that facilitated Kali cartel, cocaine, and various mafia groups in Russia and transactional money laundering? I'm not surprised. I mean, Putin was the richest man in the world. If maybe he even is. It's just he thought that like money doesn't matter for him anymore. So coordinate with the Ukrainian YouTubers to avoid delusion and pull together. I mean, I don't have to coordinate. You know, we're doing a lot of stuff. Like Dennis doing his own stuff, and Dennis like is the most successful. I mean, coordination with pro-Ukraine YouTubers is the problem is that I'm like the smallest of the bunch. My channel is like the smallest. So whenever like I'm talking and saying it's like, oh, you should watch Dennis' channel, it sounds kind of stupid in my head because like his channel is like 50 times, okay, 10 times bigger than mine. Right, so it's like, why am I suggesting something that is so obvious? So it's a little bit unclear. That Putin. If you want to boost your income, I recommend stealing from your citizens and build a palace. Nice shenanigans. Can we raise enough money to hire Tom Cruise? No, but we will do more fundraisers. We will do more charity fundraiser. I just need to figure out how to do it better, because the previous one we did, it was a easy solution because we were able to essentially see. My biggest problem with fundraisers is like I can show you who am I fundraising for, but how do I know who is donating, who is not, right? I don't have an overview of that, and I still don't know how to solve that issue. It burns when IP. Any specific lights you need on equipment, then tell me. Maybe I can hook you up with just take care shipping costs. I don't think it's not nothing special. Like I have this small room. I have just one light. Like let's put you behind the scenes, guys. So like the only light I'm having is this cheap ring light in my room. And I had some discussion with people that said like how to make the room a little bit more interesting and so on. They said like, well, you need to have like this key light, this backlight. You need to have like soft light. I was like, these names doesn't explain anything to me. Like, can you explain in simpler terms and like what I should buy? So I will find people because I was not very aware. I was not an artistic person. So that's a challenge for me. And I also want to improve my editing. Editing. I know you're here for the content, but as I said, with the second channel, there's going to be a lot more content. So you missed the joke, lol. Yes. Donna Baca, I mod over a dozen channels. If you ever need assistance, including Gendit Commando, Ryan Forrest. Yeah, I know Ryan Forrest. He's okay. Cool. Yeah, sure, Donna. Welcome to moderating team. Slap those trolls. No mercy for trolls. We are talking about democracy and our law-abiding world order here, right? So when someone starts talking nonsense, you bunk that bitch. That's my motto on trolls. Size doesn't matter. Quality time is good too. Might not that big around, but it sure doesn't. Yes. Pretty much, Steve Walsh, I agree with you completely. I tried doing this a lot of like, you know, these, how to say, over the top emotional thumbnails, and they do great. They do great work. However, I've seen that it's also have taken like some away from a lot of the personal aspects that we had to discuss. I got a good feedback on the fact that like just generally the style with a map works good, but I still want to keep the and focus more about the community, because I really believe that if I will not deliver to the people that are watching me on a normal basis, then I mean that's the whole point. Like, because for me, you are my friends, you are part of what makes this channel really relevant. So if I'm not giving things to you that you care about, the things you're interested in, what's the point of like having all of these hundreds of people's like, okay, I'm gonna get more people, but I'm gonna get demonetized, whatever. So it's better than I just make sure that I get the detailed and proper discussions in for the community to matter. Simplicity is sometimes the best. Yes. No one here is for the lights. Oh, everyone likes the lights. The lack of the core makes you more real. Oh my God. Then I'm gonna strip everything. I'm not stripping myself though. Yes, just build an entire professional studio. I don't need professional studio. I just need better. Like, it's my OCD. Like, I'm looking at the video and it's like, well, man, like those other YouTubers have better videos. It's like, it's not that it matters, because I know it's the message that matters. Like, you wouldn't watch me if I would say nonsense. You would bonk me, but thanks. I'd love to hear more about your perspective on democracy staying heavily armed. I'm skittish about that given what I've seen in the US during my lifetime. So Randy, democracies are not ideal, right? There are problems with democracies, a lot of problems, deep-rooted problems. But it's a definite correlation that we see that the freer democracies we're having, the more essentially brute force we should have. Because if democracies are very free, it opens the possibilities for outsiders to intervene in our democracies, or even insiders to intervene in our democracies. And for democracies to stay democratic, it is essential that we have the guns, essentially, and the force to defend ourselves and make sure we are free and we stay free. That is the point. It's the same correlation. The freer the democracy gets, the more guns it should have. That's my understanding of it. Because let's see, for example, like, Germany or something, like super free, but look how corrupt it got because it didn't protect its democracy. Have you checked out Perun's video today about the state of the Russian reserve logistic capabilities? Thank you for your work from Israel. Thanks, man. Thanks for 15, I think it was shekel from Israel. I haven't seen the video. It's on my to-watch list today, right after this, actually. Richard Bennett, welcome to Brother in Arms. Appreciate it. How probable is it for Ukraine to sink more of the Black Sea Fleet, Mexican Island? I mean, maybe some, but Russia already took the Black Sea Fleet off the stage, so it's not really already playing any major role, except for the caliber launches, but they can launch those pretty much from anywhere. Don Baca, I took my US Army commission back in 1989 and still working largely as in a strategic international affairs, currently living in Prague. If you need anything here. I mean, I love Czechia. Czechia the best. So I hope you enjoy Czechia. For stripping contents, OnlyFans. No, it's too early for me to OnlyFans. OnlyFans, I've heard, like, YouTubers get OnlyFans only after 2 years as your primary source of income. Then you go OnlyFans. Dennis might be getting there. It's a joke. It's a joke. Don't leave. I understand that YouTube algorithm favors clickbait thumbnails, but I miss your early AI generated thumbnails. Yes, basically, what was missing with the AI thumbnails is common style, right? So you look at the thumbnail and you see that it's the video from the creator you follow. So a lot of these map images, they are a lot more common in style. So I'm actually going to use the second channel to develop one specific standard, and I will see how I can incorporate this AI generated art to add it, because otherwise the critique was, it looks great, but it can be anything, right? How do I know that it's you? I'm here to hear you crap on the Orc Army. Fuck them. Good lighting can be done on cheap with some creativity. Yes, it's. I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive. Yes, democracy is for sure. We're here because Ukraine matters. Yes. Darth Putin, if you can't ignore, remove my trolls, how do you engage with my trolls? Usually with the hammer. That's how I engage with them. Sally St. Clair, check out YouTube channel Live Streaming Pros. She has playlists and shows equipment set up. I've used ideas. I will check it out. Thanks. Lars Rons, the more problems we find in our democracy, the more we need to need the same democracy. Yes. The only solution to democracy is more democracy. Yeah. Are you going to have interviews with people like Starsky in the future? Thank you for your channel. Julie, I would love to do it, but I mean, I don't have the time to organize it. Because one thing for me is like, for me at some point, you know, after a long day, I come out home, I turn on the camera, okay, I have like an hour and a half before I need to go to sleep. I will record a video right now. And completely other thing is like calling some guy that has its own life, you know, try to align with him, organize. I have this on my in my daily job, trying to organize everything like this. So there are other channels that are already doing this, and I believe, and for each of these interviews, you need to prepare questions. You need to prepare questions. You need to follow the content that they're doing. You need to figure out who they are, because otherwise that's a little bit silly to just invite someone who's like, hey, who are you? Can you tell me? I have no idea. So I just do not have the resource. I do not have the resource. If YouTube would be the thing that I do, yes, but I don't. YouTube favors kitty cats in the video. Have you cats? Unfortunately not. I'm allergic to cats, dogs, dust, grass, pretty much everything. That's why I'm always, how do you say, trying to sniff something. Like I am just allergic to everything. So I always feel that my nose is full of snot. So I cannot breathe through my nose almost. So I'm breathing through my mouth when I speak. That's why I speak a lot. So like I'm speaking like I'm breathing. Lorethin, hey, do you or anyone know what happened to the lady at the beginning of the war who stood up to the Russians and told them to put sunflowers and the seeds in their pockets? Good question. No, I don't think there was any follow-up on that. But she was like a just common Ukrainian, so she was not like a public person or anything. So, Eric Martinez, thanks for 22 euros. Appreciate it. You should have added a message. Cats. What do you think of so-called Russian opposition like Navalny? Suspicious characters, isn't he? I have two videos on my channel. One was called Why Russian Opposition is Not Your Friend. And the other one was like Don't Trust Russian Opposition or something like this. So I've gotten a lot of shit. I am in a very big conflict with the Russian opposition. So a lot of people that watch me and follow disagree with me. That is fair. We can disagree on this. It's democracy. So, but I don't have a lot of good views on the Russian opposition. Darth Putin, what's your opinion on Laserpig versus my top troll Gonzalo Lira debate? I mean, putting it as a debate is stretching it. It was, I mean, a shit show is the best description. Mods can organize. I know Starsky and can get a message to him. I mean, I know Starsky as well. I have his essentially phone number. It's more about calling him up, but maybe I should do something. It's been a while, yeah. If you had time, I'd love to see you on Silicon Curtain, Lorna. I mean, if I get an invite, sure. I'm actually having, I'm gonna have a, when I'm having an invite, you know, it's different. Like if we're talking speaking, if I get an invite, I will happily find a way and find a place where I can put it. It's just organizing this whole thing is different. It's like being on the receiving end is fine. So if Silicon Curtain is going to organize anything, I would love to join. I like Silicon Curtain. We actually going to have next week, we're going to have a discussion with one interesting fella. And I'm not going to disclose who it is, but I hope the video will come out soon and you're going to have an interview. I'd love to see you on Gonzalo Lira Roundtable just to see you tear him apart with facts. No, not gonna talk. He is beyond my words. Like even talking about him is more worth giving to him than he deserves. Not even discussing of taking my time off than I can do doing anything else to him. So no. Yeah, Paul Massaro is fantastic, absolutely. Loved your video on Rhetoric podcast. I mean, some did. Probably YouTube didn't. I mean, I have the way of not being advertiser friendly. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for this wonderful 2 hours, 10 minutes live stream. We're 1,330 people that watched this until the end. Jesus Christ, guys. Thanks. I appreciate every single one of you. Love you all. And I'll see you guys next time. Slava Ukraini.